We advise the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
You are what you watch.
Hello, my name's Harrison Watko. Welcome to our program. When we start this show, if you've noticed, if you listen carefully, I always say, you are what you watch, you are what you listen to, and you are what you read. Now, we are only as good as what we know, obviously. Now, information that comes to you, then if it's good enough, if it's enough of any real information, what happens is you begin to decipher and you begin to have proper and critical thought. The problem is when you don't know anything about other issues and then you start dabbling, you start squawking about as if you know something or criticizing other issues that you have nothing, that you know nothing of. Then you begin to not only sound stupid, but you start losing integrity, especially to the people around you. Tonight's program, we're going to talk about an issue you may not be aware of. In fact, many are, but not necessarily most of us, simply because it doesn't affect us. And until it infects you, that's the word, infects you, then you begin to become more sensitive and you try to learn more about it. We're talking about electronic fraud. Now, what exactly is it? See, in the Philippines, we like to not care about issues unless it hurts us. There's this event, this horrible accident, or this horrible tragedy that happened in Connecticut in America, where some crazy guy in the age of 20, obviously impaired, went wild, went berserk, and started shooting 18 children of 6 years old and above, and 8 adults, including his mother. We may never know why this guy did this sort of thing and why he just committed murder. But you see, unless we are part of that situation where we have friends, we have relatives, or those are our very children, most of us just look by and say, oh my gosh, gee, and then tomorrow we forget about it. Now, when asked of issues related to it, which is basically gun control. So what do you think? Do you think we should have gun control? If you are part of that situation, without a doubt, you're going to say, stop the guns and throw them all away. But you see, we normally don't care until it infects us. This is normally the problem. I'm not sure this is regular human practice, but here in the Philippines, we Filipinos don't seem to want to care until we are involved. Now, let me try to open your eyes to some things that are already happening. Some 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, which prompted this show tonight, there was an announcement, and there was an announcer on TV who came on, and a bereaved person, obviously, grieved person, and he was complaining about credit card fraud. And he's asking, hey, can you guys, anybody out there, help and come to the rescue of this specific situation? Before I go on, allow me to introduce to you our guests. Of course, our co-host for the night, we have from the Suguitan Law Office, we have Attorney Sara Jane Suguitan. And then, hi, Attorney Sara. Maybe you're going to be able to help me in this program because it gets a little technical and some legal points of views. And as our resource person, we've got a foreigner who's into security, data security systems, security software. He's an inventor. His name is David Howell. Hi, David.
How do you do?
And welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on.
Did I explain that right, Attorney? About 6, 7 weeks ago, we had an issue. Somebody came out on TV about some credit card fraud. Is that correct?
Yes,
Maybe
well,
you can explain that a bit.
yes, it's a Christmas season nowadays in the Philippines, and obviously, as you said, and this issue does not affect or infect all of us, but it does affect most of us who actually have credit cards or make use of credit
Gee,
cards.
you mean all of us?
Not all of us, see, most of us.
Most
Those
of
who have
us,
credit
okay,
cards, because
all right.
not everyone in the Philippines owns or uses a credit card.
Which is why maybe they don't care, but go ahead.
Yes, but nevertheless, well, this show was prompted by, as David knows, an aggrieved person who reported credit card fraud, somebody using his or her credit card to her disadvantage, meaning racked up the purchases. Actually, it's a normal, or if not a very frequent occurrence in the Philippines. In the gyms, for example, where you have locker rooms and you leave your wallets there, there have been a lot of
They
reportings
open the
that
key, a duplicate key, they
people have
open up your
access
stuff.
to your identification cards and even your ATM or debit cards and your credit cards. And when you report it stolen, somebody has already made a purchase, you're being charged for it, and you have no other recourse but to pay for it. See, it has happened before, it continues to happen now, and it will happen over and over unless there is a solution. And that was what that program was about.
David,
Yeah.
credit card purchase, the use of electronic purchasing and using the card, the credit card, through electronic purchases, transfers, because now in the Philippines, we use PayPal and whatever other facilities, platforms, whether it be a local purchase or a foreign purchase. Our system right now, in your mind, in your assessment, is not secure. Is that correct?
No.
Why?
Well, your system at the moment is normally when you do a purchase in a store, not from the ATM machine, that the only time you use your PIN number to so-called safeguard
Yes.
is when you use an ATM machine. When you're in a store, you only have to sign or swipe.
Ain't that right? Because in the store, you swipe it, you sign it, and there's no number. Yeah, that's right. There's no PIN number, no protection.
Only when you need to draw out cash from
Only from the
Yeah, well,
ATM machine. Yes, you're
In
right.
the UK and the rest of the world, they've got their readers that you go and make a purchase. The
Right.
reader gets turned around to the customer. The customer then puts their PIN number in, so it's unseen, and then
It's equal
the,
protection,
the
second
transaction's then allowed or disallowed, depending what PIN number you put in, obviously. And it's,
Well, we have that with BPI.
yeah,
The BPI debit card, not credit, the debit card. And together with a lot of
other
debit cards, as long as it's a debit card, when you make a purchase in a store, you do have the PIN number.
You need
But
to
you're
pay,
right. I go to a store or a restaurant,
Yeah.
I surrender my card, it comes back, sign it, see you later.
yeah. So it could be anyone using your card,
Is this...
in theory. But it moves on further from that. It
Okay.
goes much, much deeper than that. At the moment now, banks, money companies, mobile companies are using codes being sent by text to a high-profile customer's mobile phone
Yes.
as a single code for a single transaction.
Correct.
Yeah?
Yes.
This is pretty common
Well,
for remittances as well.
There is a very, very, very large hole in that security.
All right.
I'll tell you about that shortly.
Okay.
But having, I need to let you know that I patented a concept in the UK. I received a grant on this particular concept as an addition to security for any transactions. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's a face-to-face transaction, over-the-phone transaction, whatever, it covers it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let me try and explain this to you. The reason David Howell is our resource person this evening is exactly that. He has developed a patent, he's registered it in the Philippines as well, wherein there's additional security into the system and the ways we know our electronic banking and the way we go about the credit cards. The way you and I know it, as he has pointed out, in the ATM machine, you've got the 4-digit PIN, which is an added security feature. Then, when you go out to a restaurant again for another purchase or in a department store and you use your credit card, you're just made to sign it. So there's no real security feature there. So then again, you remain vulnerable. Then there's what you call the mobile phones, the smartphones, wherein they give you transaction codes to approve whatever purchase or whatever it is you're trying to do with your card. They transfer to you specific codes, and you pick up the codes. It's like buying prepaid cards as into telephones, into mobile systems. These systems you punch in. The problem is the vulnerability of all this is exactly what Mr. Howell is trying to tell us. There is a black hole. Please elaborate.
Well, I can elaborate by that by saying we do have the solution. And
What is the solution?
we can't tell you the solution at the moment,
All right.
obviously. Under a non-disclosure agreement, then anyone
can't.
interested party, banks or
But you
whoever.
do have a
But
solution
we do have the solution.
that is foolproof, and you can
Yeah.
secure.
Yeah, yeah. Not only to the past, not only to the system that the criminals are using, and they did use a system a long while ago, they're still using. They showed you a machine, a small machine on the TV in the UK.
Yes,
It was
yes.
on a talk show program like this.
Yes.
They put a blank card in one end.
Here we call it the smart card.
Yeah, a smart card, but it's just
Yes.
a blank piece of
Yes.
plastic. That's all they put in.
Right.
They punched the details of any particular person who owns a credit card. It just went through out the other side as a completely cloned card.
Oh my gosh, you mean you can now
They can
copy
do-
it just
this-
like that?
This was 7-8 years ago they done this.
There are more sophisticated ways of
Well-
committing electronic fraud
Well,
nowadays.
we're trying to sort of combat that all the time, but the criminals in electronics that they're doing now, where they're stealing money by electronics, by mobile phones, by anything, or by computer, they're clever.
That's for sure.
And they always seem to be one step ahead of what we're putting in front. But we have the solution to stop all that. Basically-
Do you not see efforts in the right direction in the Philippines right now that we have employed to correct or to address the black hole that you have seen?
To a fashion, yeah, but as I said before, they're sending single codes for single transactions. The codes are only used once. That's good. They're sending it by mobile phone, which is quick and efficient. But there's a hole in it, and I'll tell you the hole now. When I was in the UK last month, I have a mobile phone. I was connected with Orange, a company in the UK, a
That's
mobile
the
phone.
mobile phone company.
I just went into an Orange store. I said to the assistants, I've lost my phone. I've lost my SIM card. It's in the phone. I need a new phone. I need a new SIM card, but with the same number on it as I already have, because it's on my business card. Within seconds, they said, they didn't ask me for any ID, just my name, address, and my postcode.
And off it went, and
I
they
didn't
gave you...
show any ID. And they just went bump, 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 gave me a new phone, and I walked out with a new SIM card. Exactly the same as the SIM card I already had in
Yes.
my phone that I didn't lose.
Right, right. But
So
you're
that-
the fraud there.
You were experimenting.
Exactly, yeah, but it just shows anyone can go in, and I can get your SIM card, I can get a SIM card with your number on it, so that every single text that you receive, I will receive. Now, the system we've developed to stop this, we cannot stop that happening. But even though the criminal may get your texts,
Yes.
he will only be getting your texts when someone sends you a text, like the bank or whichever. He doesn't know when you are sending texts.
You're
So
replying,
he-
yes,
So he
yes,
doesn't
yes.
know your reply, or even the way you actually ask for a text. He doesn't know that. Otherwise, he'd have to sit there all day and every day, sitting there waiting for your phone to move.
Legal
But we can
implications
stop
to
it.
this, attorney. Legal implications. Are there? Do we have laws already to stop all this electronic fraud that can
Yes,
go
we
on?
have the Access to Devices Regulations Act, which prohibits, of course, access to sensitive information that are done over what information technology means. So it simply means that it limits the fraud. I mean, if there's any fraud committed with regards to information that is exchanged over IT means, then you will be liable for that. But you see, the problem with technology and the law is that the technology will always be
Moves fast.
ahead
Yes.
of any law that
That's
we will.
what I was thinking. before
Will
the law
enact.
can actually be put in place to stop it, the fraud's already been committed.
Correct, yes.
In this specific case, the example David brought out, he used himself as an example, brought in and asked for a replacement, and he got it within minutes, only to walk out with 2 identical units. Never mind the phone itself, but the SIM.
Yeah.
Meaning, the SIM is now accessible to other people other than yourself.
Yeah.
That's illegal, right? Especially because I read that in the fine print of when you buy a prepaid card. It's supposed to be singular, independent, and personal.
Yeah.
It's not.
I have 2, both with my number on it. But that's, you know, I mean, that's bad, but the holes that need to be filled in there has to be done by governments. Because people text people, and it's like me sending you a letter. Laws all over the world tell you that your letters are personal. If someone takes your letter and opens the letter, it's illegal. The same thing should be done with a mobile phone texting.
This very simple analogy.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a right to privacy.
Yeah, that's basically it. But as I say, we have the solution to stop this on the modern way that codes are being sent now by mobile phone, by banks or whatever. We have the solution to stop it. We don't have the solution to stop the criminals actually getting your number.
Of course.
But we have the solution to stop them doing anything when you have it when they've got your number.
Yes.
We have that solution. So even though they might have your number, they might have your PIN number, they might have your grandmother's name, they
Yes.
might have your dog's name, they cannot take money from your bank account. That brings me to a point that obviously it's important to me. I was the inventor. I need to see my little baby that I created grow and born. I would like to see that. Not only financially, because it could be worth a lot of money, but also for the moral factors that Mr. and Mrs. Green, Mr. and Mrs. Brown saved up all their lives, working hard all their lives. They put their money in a bank, they put their money in a building society, they go on to a vacation, they come back, and their money's gone. That's just not right, you know?
Why is it your patent, your invention has not taken off? The telecoms, the banking system have not jumped on to grab you?
Because it's the same old system. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Jesus.
And
Christ.
financially, I'm okay.
Yes.
I have a decent income. I haven't got many problems. But I haven't got the vast amount of money needed for this to actually go to market.
When you go,
It needs a large corporation to do it.
if we have an issue like this, attorney, when a solution is being promoted, proposed, as in this show, is it possible to compel the industry to tighten up and regulate their systems of fraud, exposure to fraud, and force them or compel them to bring in all this new technology just to correct that?
Well, definitely it is in the public interest to prevent
That's
fraud.
the right word, public interest.
Yes, but you see, unlike in the government, it is difficult to compel private interests to act in a certain way. So it has to be in their interest as well. Would I profit from this if I implement the system? Because for all we know, they're profiting from this kind of hole in the system.
And they want to maintain the
Yes.
status quo.
Yes, for example, I'm a subscriber to a major telecommunications company, and we both know that there is a monopoly out in here in the
Yes.
Philippines. And yet, it is not in the public interest to have a monopoly, you see? So they're controlling everything, no matter what kind of suggestion you make, like, I've lost my load, you have really crappy service, etc. It just goes one ear and then out the other when it comes to the telecommunications company, because they're the ones bigger than their consumers. So they dictate how their services are run, which is not very good.
And we're not protected. But
Yes,
isn't
and
this
we're
the
not
work of the
protected.
DTI that's supposed to protect the consumers?
Well, if I may say, and I came from government
Yes.
myself, consumer welfare is not a very strong aspect of our government. I don't think our customer service here even exists. I mean, try calling any 1-800 number if there is any that exists here. You will only be frustrated. You'll spend a lot of time and money getting mad and not getting your money's worth back. And then it goes back to credit card fraud. Somebody spent your money. You don't know who it is. You're already disputing that purchase, and you end up having to pay for it anyway. And nobody goes to jail. Nobody's apprehended. So why is that? Is that in the public interest? Of course not. The public needs to be protected from this kind of fraud. But who should be the one implementing that kind of protection? Is it the government? But the government will say, credit cards are not mandatory. I mean, IT, for example, that's your prerogative. You either enter into a relationship with the bank or not. So it has to be the private corporations, the industry, that has to set the practice, that has to demand of itself that, hey, we need to do something about it because there are just too much money being lost by our customers.
What you're trying to say is consumers must unite and go to war against the big monopolies. Smart and Globe, bring me down, you know?
Well, people have been doing that a lot in social media. But see, the problem here is there is no alternative. You only have to go to them, for example, for a mobile phone subscription. But in the banks, I think this system will evolve, definitely. I mean, how we're doing credit card transactions right now, as I said, this kind of fraud incidents will keep happening. Okay, and people will keep complaining about it until finally they're affected or infected by it. I mean the people behind the banks themselves are affected by it personally. Somebody like a chairman loses billions in his account due to credit card fraud, then he will do something about it. But do we really need to wait for that?
No, we don't need to wait because I have the solution, my company has a solution, my partners have the solution. It's a matter of introducing it. We're not looking to push out the systems that are there already, which is the PIN numbers and whatever, only to add to the security so that it becomes completely very, very difficult and secure for anyone with their own money. Instead of losing their money, they keep their money. You're still going to get charges from banks and credit card companies for doing this and that and this and that. But at least you won't be losing your money anymore. You know? And I'm passionate about people that have worked hard all their lives, come back from wherever they've been, and their money's gone. And it does happen. And it amazes me that these people that actually do the stealing electronically, they're not silly people. They're clever, clever, clever people.
David,
why don't they use their energies to do something good?
There you go. David, we're going to have to take a short break. We're at the bottom of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I was talking about. If it doesn't affect you, who cares? Until the time that someone steals money from your credit cards or steals from your load, then only do we begin to get mad. But the problem is, when you get mad, you are alone. Now, in politics, this is very much the same thing. Who cares about politics? Who cares about to talk about religion? You don't want to get bothered. But when it comes to your doorstep and you get infected, so to speak, then you become what we call the body politic. Then all of a sudden you're concerned and you become a concerned citizen and you start practicing as a concerned citizen. Don't wait for a situation until all of this mutates into a monster you can no longer control. This is why we do these TV shows, for example, like this one. This may not be about the RH bill that's raging all over the country and that's all over the newspapers. This is not about the Freedom of Information bill, or much less the sin taxes. But can this not affect you? This is not just for credit cards. This can come through all the smart cards, be it your phone, your cable television, and all the future purchases, because after all, if I'm not mistaken, it's almost the end of the world. It's 2012, and we're closing near December 21. So, let me open your eyes. Stay with us. We'll come right back, and when we do, we will jump just a little bit to the side and bring this to what I call the elections, one of the bigger issues. Again, electronic fraud. We'll be right back.